Masa, masa, masa. Masa, masa, masa. Oh, Adaway, Adaway, Adaway. Oh, Adaway, Adaway, Adaway.
I've myself learned a lot about my students and even about my teaching and their learning. They learn to listen and to really adapt attitudes towards other cultures, other people, attitudes of respect and humility and the friendship. This program has been running for 5 years, and 53 students have gone through it. And with no exception, they all say they've learned a lot about themselves.
When we arrived in Rwanda, it was very warm, and we went directly to the hostel where we were staying, and we had a really nice meal.
Yeah, the nuns welcomed us as soon as we got there. They came and shook all of our hands, and then the priest came and said hello, and we got into the dining hall, and the food was laid out for us. Everything was there. Everyone was ready.
Everyone was very friendly in Rwanda. We felt welcomed at all times, and it was always a very pleasant environment to be in. The hostel has religious affiliations, so there would often be people singing hymns in the mornings and in the evenings. This was very nice for us to experience and to be a part of.
We would come out of the dining hall after dinner, and we would just hear this beautiful gospel music. You could see the gatherings of people singing, and it was an incredible environment to just be a part of at all times. You could just hear this singing. Our first stop on our first day in Rwanda was Gasimba Memorial Center, and as soon as we got there, we were just swarmed by all the kids, and so we got it, and they had no idea who we were. They just came and hugged us and grabbed on and held our hands, and they were fighting to hold our hands, and they took us out into their circle, just welcomed us as soon as we got there.
My name is Pincombe. I am from in Rwanda. I am happy. My friend is Nicholas. My school teacher is Patrick Solomon. I am happy in Nicholas. I happy, very strong. Thanks.
Gasimba houses over 100 orphans, and once a week they go to a music center to undergo music therapy. They learn how to play different instruments such as piano or the guitar or the recorder. The music therapy allows them to express their emotions in ways that they normally can't, so it's something that they look forward to every week.
Ange turned to me and she says, my name, she says, Rachel. I always loved that name. That was my sister's name. My sister, my brother, and my father were all killed in the 1994 genocide. In Rwanda, anyone that you've met that is age 20 or over has likely experienced the genocide. And the fact that that's just a lunch conversation piece for Ange was really striking to me, because for Ange and for so many people in Rwanda, it's just something that had happened to them, and it's something that they have to move on from. They have to heal, because otherwise, like, what's left?
I would walk into my class and all the kids would rise and say, "Good morning, teacher." I would walk to the back of the class, and on the way, I would often shake hands and say, "It's good to see you." When I was able to teach them this "it's good to see you" thing, I could then say, "Hey, so-and-so, how are you?" And he'd say, "I'm fine." And I could say, "Hey, it's good to see you." And then he'd say, "It's good to see you too." And that way there seems to be more of a genuine communication going on.
So every Saturday morning, Centum Rambo has a drop-in program where all of their beneficiaries can come. And so we were invited to that drop-in program. And as soon as we got there, we were grabbed by all the little children and everyone, and we were just pulled into the center of the circle. And they started teaching us their dances. Later on, we split off into two groups, and Gail and I were able to teach the younger children some songs and dances that we had learned. And then Natalie and Alyssa and Steve taught the older children about sexual health. And to me, that was definitely the best example of reciprocity that I had experienced while we were in Rwanda. The Belgian Memorial has 10 different stones, one for each of the fallen Belgian soldiers. And this was really important to us. They were killed protecting the Prime Minister, and when that happened, there was an uproar. That's how the whole genocide came into full action.
The church memorial was a very unsettling place. So they went there not seeking salvation in the afterlife, not seeking salvation for their souls, but seeking salvation of their bodies. Yeah, it was really horrible, actually. There were all these people gathered in this church building, and then all the Hutus came, and they threw grenades into the church building. There was these shelves that had skulls of the victims.
After our tour at the Genocide Memorial of Ontarama, the guide always goes and sits on a bench and cries. This has been very painful to see her go through that exercise of recounting what happened during the genocide, and at this very center, and see how emotional she always gets while she's talking about what happened.
One of my first impressions of Rwanda once we had left Kigali was that the life of the people in rural Rwanda seemed very simplistic in a very good way. Whereas in North America and Europe, we have such a consumerist lifestyle, and I wondered if that had an effect to do with quality of life.
I think mobility is ultimately the word. Just that we were even able to be there implies a certain power, an indirect power just in terms of how we fit into the global socio-political dynamic.
Looking back, looking at all the terminology used between the Holocaust and the 1994 genocide, it's disgustingly similar how the death of all of the Jewish people and the death of all of Tutsi people is the final solution. I know that the Holocaust during the Second World War wasn't the first of its kind, but I think it's so notable, and over 6 million people were killed, that it could be the framework for following genocides. And the fact that this was able to happen and the world was just able to watch kind of made all the following genocides okay. because it had already happened once. And at the time, no one really cared. And it happened again in 1994, and no one really cared.
You know, the Holocaust wasn't the first genocide by any means in history, but it was certainly the first genocide that demanded global awareness and global attention. And she makes a really interesting point that having dealt with that Holocaust and the horror of it, and the restitution that needed to be made afterwards, people got accustomed to genocide. And that's a really disturbing and interesting point, because it's not that genocides become acceptable, it's the fact that people get accustomed to the fact that they happen. And I think about that in terms of why we have an international component to SASA and its curriculum. And you know, I think that the university is a very special place that allows us to interact with one another and to think about cultural diversities of all kinds. One thing that doesn't happen when you're in an intellectual or purely academic environment is that you don't even think to look to the person next to you and think about the diversity that they simply carry within themselves by virtue of who they are, who they're born to, what society they're part of, so forth and so on. It's easy to take those diversities for granted at some level. And for some reason, you need to get out of your skin, out of your body, off campus, and into a completely different world where you see firsthand what diversity looks like and feels like. At some level, it needs to happen at the university, but then we need to take it to the streets. Because without that happening, it's very easy to take things for granted. And that's especially important to think about when the things that we take for granted are really horrifying events that affect entire ethnicities, entire cultures, entire populations.
So my brother and I are walking around Yorkdale Mall, and I realized that I am wearing an outfit that I had been wearing for 2 days straight. I'm wearing a shirt that I had been washing in the sink for the last 5 weeks, and a skirt that I had made for me at Santa Marambo that I paid about $8 for. And I felt so out of place. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know how to behave. It just kind of became ridiculous to me.
Mupenzi is one of the boys who lives at the Gasimba Memorial Center, and he asked me to learn how to play an instrument. So this is me playing the piano for you, Mupenzi.
Mes remerciements les plus sincères vont à nos partenaires dont la collaboration avec nous a toujours été remarquable. J'entends ici ceux et celles du Collège de médecine et des sciences de la santé de l'Université du Rwanda, du Centre Marimbo, de l'école et de l'orphelinat de Gisimba et bien sûr du Centre pastoral Saint-Paul de Kigali. Je m'en voudrais de ne pas souligner justement aussi le dévouement de mes chers étudiants.
Mama,